Confidence in the bullpen can be a roller coaster experience.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Rays podcast. We are today joined with a special guest, Kevin, a three-time World Series champ, a left-handed reliever that is part of MLB history because you are a member of the 1,000 games pitched club. In fact, number 2 in those ranks. Mike Stanton, part of the Locked On family. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, guys. I appreciate you having me. What a crazy baseball season we've had. Nice intro, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Of course. Yeah. We got to start off with that. 19 years in the majors across multiple decades. Mike, what do you credit to that longevity and durability? I mean, you're part of history with how many appearances and games and just what we do before we have a guest on who was a major leaguer, former major leaguer, we go to their reference page. And you got to scroll down a long way to see everything that you did and accomplished, which is just amazing. But just 19 years in the majors, like, what was that like for you? Just that durability, consistency, reliability.
You know, it's crazy because you look back on it, it seems surreal. It doesn't seem like you really did it. The time flew by. Of course. I wasn't married when I started. Done. I'm married with 3 children, and they're about to go to college. I mean, it was really special, and it was sometimes a bumpy ride, a lot of times a great ride. But I was blessed way more than I ever thought I should be, I ever deserved. And what helped me do that? That's a tough question. That's a pretty long answer because, obviously with all the injuries that have been going on over the last, decade or two, Tommy Johns, I never had Tommy John. Actually, I think I'm one of the few that haven't had Tommy John. So to answer that question, we would probably need a whole week to go over that. But I think one of them was, when I was I did not go through the perfect game stuff. I did not go through select baseball. I played in a summer league my whole high school career. There wasn't travel ball. I think we did travel one year, but it was, for one like state tournament I was playing out in Midland. We actually came to Houston where I am now, played a tournament. That was it. We played now, I mean, heck, I work with a lot of kids. I've got, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Well, not 10, 11 and 12-year-olds. I mean, these kids play 100+ games a year. I mean, it's really incredible how many of these plays. And I think that's a big part of the longevity that I had. I just did not have the wear and tear on my arm until I got, into my late teens, heck, even my 20s.
Yeah, you look at the games. You couldn't have that in today's ball game. I mean, there were some seasons you had 74, 81, 73, 76, 79, 83. It's like a rubber arm. Like what?
I was blessed with a resilient left arm for sure.
Nice. You really were. Like, so when you have that type of season and you're going through 162, obviously as a fan, you mostly look at the bullpen as you kind of avoid thinking of the good things, but when the bad things happen, you really highlight the bullpen. Hey, how tough is it? What's the biggest misconception that fans have about the bullpen life? Is it that just guys are always hurt and no matter what, they're still going out there?
Well, I was part of the generation in the late 90s that really started the bullpens became very important. Switching through the 80s, even through the 70s, was starting to diminish. They weren't going as many innings, and if you're going to win baseball games, you had to have somebody. Cover those outs, and whether it was a specialty role like a left-handed specialist, which I wasn't ever really one of those guys. It was, but it's vastly different than it is now. To tell you the truth, I mean, if you have any warm bodies that can go out there and start, bullpens are actually more important. They're pitching not quite half, but way closer to half the innings than we did. And, what I always considered myself back in the day, the funny thing is when I was in high school, I said, I would never pitch. I don't want to pitch. I want to be a position player. I want to play every day. Well, I kind of kept that mentality all the way through my career. And so I considered myself an everyday player. I just happened to pitch, and that's how I came to the ballpark every day. And, 4 times than not, I did pitch, or at least warmed up, because for every one of those games I did get in, there was probably somewhere between 1 and 2 warm-up sessions before I got in the game. And so you add that with the numbers that are already there. That's a lot of throwing, but that was my mentality. I came to the ballpark expecting to pitch. I wanted to pitch. I wanted to be in the game.
Yeah. And we'll get back to your career in a moment, but want to focus on the Tampa Bay Rays because you are tied into what's going on in the day-to-day, game-to-game of this season and previous seasons
Sure.
with the Back to the Bullpen show. But how surprised are you about the Rays and what they're doing so far? I don't think anybody in the universe had an idea or an expectation that they would be in the position that they're in. I mean, you can make a case for that. Hey, could they win the AL East? Could they make the playoffs and possibly go to the World Series? Just what are your impressions, broad strokes of the Rays so far this season?
What a crazy season this has been. I mean, all the way across Major League Baseball, not just there in Central Florida. It has been truly remarkable. There are some big market teams that kind of stink. And I don't think they're going to get better. And Tampa is one of those on the other side that there's a couple teams in this league that I think they actually relish in the idea of being the underdog. I think Tampa is that way. I think the Milwaukee Brewers are that way. The Oakland Athletics, you can say the same thing, but they play in such a bad division.
Right.
They've played well. But I think you like the idea, especially with all the big market teams in the East. The Rays are just like, okay, you know what? We'll do things our own way. Y'all can talk about the Red Sox and the Yankees and all those big teams up north. And we'll just keep winning baseball games. And they've always done it in a unique way. They've always done it in a way, over probably the last 15 years, they've always done it in a way that's been they've tried to replicate it all the way across the league. This is a big-time copycat league. That if something works, somebody else is going to try it. And other teams have tried it, and some teams have been a little successful. I mean, all you have to do is look at how many executives across Major League Baseball started with the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are everywhere. Yeah. Like I said, some teams have been able to do it a little bit more successful, and no one's ever been able to do it like the Rays. And you're right, there is not – no one really predicted that this was going to happen. Now, sample size – we can't really use that anymore. We're right at a third of the season,
right?
Yeah. We always sample size. You got to keep an eye on the sample size. Sample size is small. Well, we're not really there anymore. I mean, we're very close to the third of the season, and so Tampa Bay Rays are for real. How are they doing it? That's a great question. No one's ever really been able to figure it out.
Well, the NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. So whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it just adds another level of excitement to every single game. So what are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game.
If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all that sugar. And then that's why Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. The classic cotton candy taste that you remember, probably at the Trop, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved cotton candy, but I can't be eating sweets all day. And I know you can't be eating sweets all day either. But this is why this is such a great throwback idea. And it's become my go-to whenever I need to satisfy that craving. So today, bring on the sweetness with cotton candy 5-hour energy shots. It's available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Again, cotton candy 5-hour energy shots. Available now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Before the season,
I know they're not doing it with home runs.
No, that's right. Not a lot of them.
A lot of bunting and moving the runner over.
Yeah.
Before the season started, Kevin and I were in lockstep. I think Kevin had 77. I had 78 wins. Obviously, now May 17th, you're looking at the calendar and saying, like, maybe that's undershooting them. I was of the thought, hey, they went on a 25-9 run last year, then back-to-back to a 9-25. So at least 68 game sample size can give you the best of the best and the worst of the worst. We're approaching that line in Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they keep playing like they're playing, like you're saying, like you have enough sample size now that that's no longer valid.
Right. And I mean, you're to the point now that you look at and you go, listen, if they can just go 500, they're going to be in great shape. But you have to always, every team has to go through it. And it's one of the major reasons, many reasons that many of the teams in Major League Baseball have struggled is injuries have been prolific. I mean, everybody has them. You know, the Rays have them, but they've been able to deal with it a little better than a lot of these other teams. But that's going to be a big part, you know, for a team that's not a team full of superstars. You know, the team that's a whole bunch of grinders.
Yeah.
You know, you can't replace those superstars, but, you know, you just can't. You have to make sure that they stay healthy. If they can stay on the field, it's great that they're playing back inside. That actually helps. I think that's one of the problems they had last year. You know, one claims, oh, we're not playing at home. True, but they're also playing through the summer in Central Florida. And you guys are there. You know that it is like the face of the earth. I'm in Houston, Texas. We're the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just very hard to put up with that kind of heat every single day and win baseball games.
Yeah. Now, Mike, you were a major leaguer when the Rays were known as the Devil Rays, and they were not so good as an expansion team in the early going of that franchise. But when you were playing, what were your impressions of the Devil Rays besides them? Hey, they're a bad ball club. We should be able to sweep them. But just, you know, facing them and being in Tropicana Field, what was that like on the player side of things?
Well, I am on the other side of a lot of people. I always enjoyed going to the Trop. I didn't. It was a unique stadium. You know, there's a thunderstorm outside. You know, there's a thunderstorm outside. You know, you can see the lightning with the rubber roof or whatever they call it. But I always thought it was, again, you know, we're not outside. You know, everybody's, oh, the Trop is terrible. Well, we could be outside. And that would be vastly different, you know, just to ask the Marlins back before they got their stadium.
Yeah.
And so I always enjoyed it. I always, you know, I spent, you know, 21 of my 22 spring trainings in Florida. So, you know, Florida was great. The Vinoy Hotel downtown was always pleasure. So there were many things. The clubhouse, the visiting clubhouse guys took great care of everyone. You know, and those are all things that go into the whole idea of you know, how you feel about going down there. We also played pretty good baseball, especially when I was with the Yankees, that we went down there. So I mean, that obviously helps too. You know, they used to call it Yankee Stadium South or something like that. But yeah, so I always enjoyed the Trop. As far as the way the Devil Rays, the way they, went about their business. Back then they did have some pretty big names. They did have Evan Longoria. They did have some marquee names. And you better bring your big boy pants, because you're going to have to play. So I always thought they were a little, all the conversation, you still have it today, all the conversation about, do they need a new stadium? Where is that location going to be? Should they be in Tampa, or should they be on the St. Pete side? I always kind of felt for, all the years I played with the Yankees, and got used to that, that I don't know if you get used to the traffic in Central Florida around Tampa, but I always felt for the Rays fans, because not an easy stadium to get to.
No.
Especially if you're coming from where the biggest part of the population was, which is on the other side of the bay in Tampa.
Yeah.
Not just, so you always kind of, there were, sometimes there were a late arriving crowd, but hey, they were a big league club. They've stuck around all this time. They've had some great seasons, and they're having another one now. So yeah, I always thought that the way they do things in that organization, they make do. They don't complain about what they have. They just make do with the situation that they're in, and they do a great job of capitalizing on that.
I think you gained a lot of points by pointing out with Rays fans that it is, in fact, very difficult to get to the Trump. So you get some points there. You take a look at when you were playing to right now. Obviously, the change in information has been ridiculous, and
no doubt.
The fact that you have so much readily available right now for you as a player on any sort of data must be really different to what you guys were getting handed out.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that difference of information that you were given,
Sure.
before a World Series game in 2000, before you pitched in Game 5?
Well, I go even back. My first World Series game was 1991.
Wow.
So, I mean, you want to talk, this is back before we used video analysis.
Even then, that contrast.
I mean, this goes all the way back then. And, so all the scouting was done by scouts, not by computers, not by AI. It was done by dudes sitting in the stands. And because, even back then, every team wasn't on, it wasn't on TV every day.
Right.
And so you couldn't really even do any scouting on TV. You had to have somebody, butts in the seats in order to get the information. And then the information is all, what kind of bias does a scout have? Is he a pitching guy? Is he a hitting guy? And you had to incorporate all that. So there was a lot more. You know what? Pitchers are going to go with what their strong suits are. And if we can figure out something, hitter, the things that I wanted to know when I was pitching, I wanted to know who was hot, who was not, and what were they hitting. That's it. And I'm not talking about pitch. I'm talking about location. If the guy that hits the ball out over the plate is the guy that likes the ball inside, can he stay on a breaking ball? That kind of things. And, I think about the late 90s, we used to get, and it was an independent company, that there was a couple of them out there. The company was named Inside Edge. And that was kind of the first data-driven information. You can actually, we actually had a scouting report in the bullpen with us. You could read through it. And of course we still went through our pitchers meetings and all that stuff. But, I think there's a problem today with how much information that they actually have. And it's even more now than just, 8 or 10 years ago. When AJ Hinch was here in Houston, he used to tell me that the first day of a series, he would get, Houston was one of the first teams to really go in deep with the analytics. And he used to get, a 2 or 3 inch stack of papers every series on just the information. That's all the data. And he would actually go through the first day of the series. He would go through all that data and see what he needed, see what he didn't need. Was he going to give to his coaching staff? What did he want his coaching staff to give to the players? Because I think, they've gotten better in the minor leagues now. There's a lot of data they use in the minor leagues now. But, you go back 8 or 10 years ago, it was all at the big league level, and you had paralysis by analysis. There was just too much information. You have a young guy come up that's dealing or swinging the bat well, and all of a sudden you throw this information. He's like, oh, what am I supposed I see ball, hit ball. What am I supposed to do with all this stuff?
Yeah.
So I think there's that is an issue that they still have today, even though they have more data in the minor leagues. It's just one of those things that you got to remember. The game is still played physically on a field. And you can have all the data in the world. It doesn't help you if you don't have a good swing or you don't have confidence in yourself, because there's some things that the analytics just can't touch.
ED is way more common than most guys think. Millions of guys deal with it at some point, and that's exactly why HIMS offers a straightforward way to handle it. HIMS connects you with licensed healthcare providers online, giving you access to legitimate ED treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process that makes it easier to take care of yourself. The whole process is simple. You just complete a quick online intake and a provider reviews your information. If treatment is right for you, it ships directly to your door in discreet packaging, which makes the whole experience feel private and stress-free. So to get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Well, it's great you bring that up. And I think that's something that the Rays have tried to focus on is, we can have the stack of papers and a book report of information, but how do we convey that to the players? How do we give them the executive summary, the 3 or 4 bullet points, instead of pages and pages of information that they're not going to read or sift through? But one thing that is, I don't know if it's been quantified or tried to be quantified yet, is the clubhouse chemistry and how players get along and vibe together. And that's something that, at least in some of the articles and reports we've seen from the Rays this year, is that this is one of the best groups of 26 dudes that have been in the clubhouse. We're getting along. We're enjoying ourselves. We're going out to dinner after the games. How important is that clubhouse chemistry, and how is that measured at all? Is it just a matter of, hey, the coaches in the front office, they need to talk to the players and figure out, hey, who's the bad egg or the bad apple in the clubhouse, and trying to remediate that? But just your impressions of, clubhouse chemistry and how that's measured and quantified.
Yeah, it's not surprising they're talking about how good the chemistry is. And I'm not in the clubhouse. I'm not going to say that it's not good, but the number one thing for a good clubhouse, win baseball games.
Yes.
I mean, that's more than anything else. You've got a room full of type A personalities. Is it vital? No, it is not. As long as everybody, the guy that's sitting next to you, you can't stand him. It doesn't matter, as long as when you go onto the field, you go in between the white lines, your focus is the same, which is win baseball games. We had a motto in Texas, and we had a motto in New York when I was with the Yankees. It was very simple: play today, win today. That was it. That was it, which meaning we're going to do everything we can to win today's baseball game. We're not going to worry about tomorrow. We're not going to worry about what happened yesterday. We got to focus on what and listen, 3 World Series in a row, should have been 4. Mariano, makes a play that he made 1,000,000 times in his career and threw a ball away to center field in the 9th inning of 0-1. We were I think 1 out or 2 outs away from 4 in a row. Yeah. Did we get along all the time? Of course not. We did not. I mean, now you didn't hear about it as much. We were able, even then, social media wasn't there, but we did have the internet, everything. You had the information. Media was a little bit different. There were some things that happened that didn't make it into the media, which was actually how it should be. What happens in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. Well, when you're in New York, the clubhouse is full of media. So, it's not vital, But to tell you the truth, if you have a team that is not playing well and they have a good clubhouse, you have a problem. And it's not necessarily personnel. It's with focus on what your job is. And you shouldn't have a good club. Not meaning everybody's at each other's throats throwing punches, but it shouldn't be a fun environment. It shouldn't, because you're supposed to be winning baseball games, and you've done it all your life. That's how you got to the big leagues. There's no reason it should change just because we got a whole bunch of guys that like to hang out after the game.
Right. I think, we've always equated to, obviously it's a really fun gig, a fun job, a fun career to be a baseball player, right? But at the end of the day, it's your job.
That's right.
Just like when you don't have a non-baseball job and you go to your office, you go to your cubicle, and the people around you you get along with them well, then maybe you get a little bit more productivity out of it. Must be the same thing on in a clubhouse. Like if you have a good environment, then maybe you can get that 0.1% better out of you. But you're saying it's kind of chicken or the egg. What makes a good clubhouse is winning, or does winning get you a good clubhouse?
Well, I mean, listen, you have to have the focus isn't on does everybody get along. The focus on is everyone pulling on the same end of the rope.
Right.
And that's what's important. Like I said, the guy next to me, I don't like. He's annoying. He listens to bad music, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But when we put our jerseys on and we walk out onto the field, we are both doing whatever needs to be done for the team to win. And that, if your focus is that way, and you need to have some talent also, but if your focus is on that, then the clubhouse stuff doesn't matter. And what do? You just avoid that person. I mean, I've been on teams that we got to get, we had a great time and we won. I also there was teams I was on that were very cliquish, that, that you didn't hang out with everybody. But, once the bell rang, it was time to get to work, and you still went out there and did it. So every clubhouse is different. Even if you have exactly the same personnel from one year to the next, the clubhouse, the dynamic is different in the clubhouse. Everybody's in a different place. People have children, contract disputes, you name it, because people need to understand that these guys go through all the same things that, regular people go through, non-baseball players go through. And, as far as the productivity side of it, the only difference is it's really, you have a job to do just like any other job. The only problem is you're on TV every day, and when you don't do your job, everybody knows about it.